Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Pete's CD Vinyl World. Today I want to do a quick video of a vinyl tag put out by a new member of the VC, Mutha Alamare. I don't know if you say that right or not, but I believe he has like 100 subscribers, so he's got a contest. And the contest is show 8 bands or artists that had 3 albums or less. Which at first I was like, man, that's pretty hard. And looking through my stuff and just thinking of bands, a lot of bands, initially had 2 or 3 albums, maybe in the 70s or 80s, but it seems a lot of them got back together in the 90s or 2000s and put some more out. Like The Knack was one band I thought of immediately, but then I forgot that they started putting albums out again in the 90s. And tried not to go for solo artists because I think that's, like Aaron said, it's a kind of an easy way to go out because if you have a guy from a band who puts out 1 or 2 solo albums throughout his career, then that's easy. Also found that it was easy to find bands that has had 1 album rather than like 2 or 3. But I haven't watched too many videos of his. Noticed that he is a hard rock and metal fan, which is good. It seems like a lot of the newer guys making videos are into hard rock and metal, which is cool. I mean, how many times can you talk about Dark Side of the Moon or the Bob Dylan catalog? I mean, really, it gets like monotonous after a while. But let me get started. This is my 8. I might have more than 8 here. I don't know, but let's see. The first one is the band Z. This was a band with Dweezil Zappa and Ahmet Zappa. Now you might say, well, Dweezil had a bunch of albums. He did have a bunch of solo albums, but this was their own band called Z. They had 2 albums, I believe. This is their first one. It's kind of Frank Zappa-ish. They have all kinds of weird songs, weird time changes. I have to listen to this again. I don't remember it being that great. I like Dweezil's solo albums a lot, but I don't remember if this was that good from what I remember. Next one is one of my favorite bands from the 90s, Brother Kane. They had 3 albums, and led by Damon Johnson. Had a couple of minor radio hits like Got No Shame and Hard Act to Follow. I love their first album a lot. I don't think they were ever put on vinyl, even now, reissued or anything. Damon Johnson eventually went on to... he was part of like a revamped Thin Lizzy lineup for a while, and he played guitar for Alice Cooper. I think he does some solo stuff now, but if you ever see any of these used or whatever, they're definitely really good. Next one was a one-shot band called Contraband. This was sort of a super group. Came out, I can't read here, late 80s, early 90s, but it's got Michael Schenker, Bobby Blotzer from Rat, Tracy Guns, the guitar player from Vixen, and the singer from Shark Island, which I don't recall his name. They do some covers on here, but they got a lot of original songs too. It's actually a really good album, I think. Actually had some videos on MTV. They used to play on Headbangers Ball, but they only made the 1 album. Next up is Frehley's Comet. So Aaron showed Vinnie Vincent Invasion, so I'm going to show Frehley's Comet. They had 3 releases, 2 studio albums and a live EP. Now you might say, well, Ace Frehley's put out a bunch of albums. Yeah, but those are not under the Frehley's Comet name. His first albums out of Kiss were actually a band, and he had another singer that wrote and sang half the songs, sort of like the Paul Stanley role, Todd Howarth. He had a much higher voice, and so it was a real band as opposed to starting with Trouble Walking. He just started doing solo albums, but I actually like these a lot. I would say even more so than his solo albums, since I think he needs another guy to help him write, But I have this one on vinyl. I'd like to get the other 2 on vinyl as well. So, moving on to some records now. This is Manitoba's Wild Kingdom. It's a one-shot band as far as I know. It has Dick Manitoba from the Dictators, which was a late 70s New York hardcore / punk band. And has Ross the Boss from Manowar on guitar. This album is sort of like the precursor to, if anyone remembers Andrew WK, that whole Party Hard, like this reminds me of that. But it's like, this came out in 1990, I believe. So yeah, the album's like 25 minutes long. It's got like short 3-minute songs, but they're all catchy, good hooks. Don't know why they never made another album, and not sure. Maybe the Dictators got back together, but I like this album a lot. Next album is the one album by the band Blue Steel. I picked this up at the Goodwill, I believe. It's a promo copy. Came out in 1979, I believe. From what I read about them, they were sort of like a country rock band, but the best song on the album is the title track, No More Lonely Nights, which kind of has like a disco-ish feel. The rest of the album, I would say, is pretty terrible. I just thought I like finding these bands that put out like 1 or 2 albums that no one's ever heard of. But yeah, this one was not a winner. Next up, The Firm, Jimmy Page, Paul Rogers Band. They put out 2 albums. This is their first one. Not really guitar heavy at all, you know. I know Jimmy Page was having some issues around that time, but it's still a really good album, but just not what you'd expect from Page, you know. And I decided to put in the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. They had 2 albums, and then Vinnie Vincent actually released an EP in the early 90s, and that's it. That's the only output from him. But I like this album a lot. I like the second one. I have that on CD. What's that called? All Systems Go. I like that one. Probably a little bit better. Has Mark Slaughter on vocals. And the band Detective. They had 2 albums. They were on the Swan Song label, Led Zeppelin's label. And the singer is Michael DeBars, who I guess is best known for marrying that famous groupie Pamela DeBars. And also the keyboard player is Tony Kaye from Yes. And it's an odd album. It's not hard rock. It almost has like a soul feel to it as well, but the drums sound incredible. It's kind of ironic that they're on Swan Song because the drummer sounds just like John Bonham. And it's a pretty good album. I gotta listen to it more. And there's another Kiss connection on here because there's a song called Ain't None of Your Business, which Kiss actually demoed for Destroyer. There's bootlegs of it out there that Peter Criss singing it, so it's another Kiss connection. So that was my 8. I guess that was 8. So go check out Aaron Mutha Alamare's site and watch some of his videos. If you like my videos, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.